This episode of Q Point Podcast is pre-recorded, produced and sponsored by Karina Quirk, broker at Next Home Experience.
Different views.
I know your story.
From different cues.
Incredible job.
He's David Quirk.
You brought it up.
And she's Karina Quirk.
Imagine.
This is
Q Point.
Now joining us in studio is Maine State Representative Mike Soboleski. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Good to see you guys as well. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for making the trip to Bangor.
It was a nice ride up today. Once I got on the interstate, clear sailing.
Yeah, no
Perfect.
deer out there or anything?
No, unfortunately, I haven't seen one yet this year, but I'm trying.
You are very involved with the border, not only in Maine, but I see you've visited Texas as well. Can you take us through all of your visits and your focus on the border?
Sure. Immigration and border security has been in the forefront of the work that I do now. And last year, early in the year, I went down to McAllen, Texas, and toured the southern border with the Federation for American Immigration Reform, FAIR. It was a great trip. First time I'd ever been to the border to actually touch the wall, and was able to get to both sides of the wall, and that was very cool. You see it on TV, but actually being there and feeling it, it gave it a sense of reality. We went to a lot of different places down there. We went to the overpass where they had everyone come in and go under. It was on TV a lot, where they lined them up and processed them there. We went to the Rio Grande. Didn't get on the Rio Grande that time, but we went there. I didn't realize that the Texas Highway Department does a lot of patrols on the Rio Grande. They had their boats there, the big gun boats with the machine guns on all four corners, and it was incredibly impressive. We also sat for a day in conference, going through and having different speakers come up and talk to us about different ways that they were handling border security and how they were handling it on the interior as well, how many arrests they have on the interior, that are CBP arrests, not alone, just alone at the border. And then when I came back, organized a tour through CBP in Washington, D.C. to the Jackman station. I was allowed to take 12 people with me, and just to take a really good up-close look as to how we do it. Now, before that, a few months before, I'd been to the Coburn-Gore crossing. They're getting ready to do an $85 million refit, and I went up with Senator Joe Martin. We talked with the Bureau of General Services, took a look at what that would look like as far as the economic impact would be, what the environmental impact would be, how they're going to do the roads, they're going to change it, reroute it, how they're going to get the power, where they're going to get the water, what is this construction going to look like. So going up to Jackman, where that had just been refit just a dozen years ago, it gave us a good insight as to what it would look like. And that was a great tour. They had their big boys come over and take us around the facility and talk with us pretty extensively about what they do there. And they do a fantastic job. After that, I put a bill in this last legislature, an act to facilitate compliance with federal immigration law by state and local municipalities. And FAIR was very instrumental in helping modernize and update that bill for me. Sent it down to them. They took care of it all, sent it back up. I ran that through. And of course, that one was defeated. Actually, never made it out of committee. Then they passed their bill, the side of the aisle, which was to create the sanctuary state. That's still sitting on the governor's desk. I believe that she's going to let that sit there, of course, until we open. Once we get gavelled back in, she's got 3 days to make a decision. She can either veto it, or let it be, then it becomes law in 90 days, or send it back to the legislature for us to rework it, and I think that's what she's going to do. That's my gut feeling. I don't think they want to take action. That's a killer for them. We'll see what happens there. After that bill was all done, I organized another trip, this time up to the Holton border sector, and took 15 people up there this time. 4 people from FAIR, Mark Lamb, Art Del Cudo, their executive director, Brian Harris, and their coordinator, Sherry Rendell. And 4 members from our criminal justice committee, Sheriff Pete Johnson, the troop commander, the F Troop in Aroostook County, and a local representative. There were 7 senators and representatives. We all went up there, toured it. It was a great tour. We learned a lot, and they do a great job. We also learned that they had, as of the end of August, 665 apprehensions CBP had. Half of them at the border and the other half at the interior. And then after that, there was another trip back down to the southern border, McAllen, Texas. Went through basically the same type of stuff. Met a lot that I met before. Made some new relationships, which have been instrumental in moving forward with border security. And this time got to get on one of the gunboats and ride the Rio Grande with CBP. And that was very cool to do. We're very involved in it. Hoping to, in 26, get even more involved in it and help any way we can.
You are listening to Q Point Podcast. I'm Karina Quirk, co-hosting with my husband, David Quirk, and we are having a conversation with Maine State Representative Mike Soboleski. So what are your plans in 2026 related to immigration?
We'll see what they bring for bills. I've just gone through and looked at a little bit of it, the stuff that was able to make it through Legislative Council. Very disappointing to see they brought one forward, which is an act to create the right to emergency review to demonstrate the status of persons erroneously detained. The bill would allow a person detained at a state facility on the basis of an alleged allegation of being unlawfully present in the United States of America to appear in court and present evidence that they are not illegal. The Immigration Registration Act of 1940 requires anybody who is not a citizen who's in the United States of America, age 14 and above, to register with immigration authorities within 30 days of stepping on American soil. If you don't, you're here illegally. That's it. That's pretty cut and dry. It really is. They'll pass that bill, but it'll be interesting to see how that flies in the future. You can't pass a state law that contradicts federal law. So we'll see what they do there. I'm hoping to do a big event sometime early in the year to get as many people that are involved in law enforcement, immigration enforcement, border security together under one roof. So we're working towards that goal. We're looking at putting together a program that we call a MIT program, MITT, which is a Master Illegal Trafficking Tracker, which will provide information for ICE and federal authorities when they come to the state of Maine, and working with Laura Lederer at the Department of War to put that together, see what it's going to entail. We want to be able to have a tracker available for federal authorities, ICE, when they come here and say, this is who's bringing them in. This is how they're being funded. This is where they're being employed. This is where they're being housed. And we want to be able to assist them in any way. The Democrats on the other side have put together their tracker to monitor where ICE is and what's going on. That's an attempt to actually, in my personal opinion, interfere with federal immigration authority. And I think, as we all know, harboring an illegal, interfering with federal law enforcement, or interfering with ICE are felonies. So we want to make sure that they're held accountable if they actually do that. So we'll see what they do. But the MIT program is going to be a great system. I've been working with a number of people that I've met through my trips down to the southern border and the relationships I've made through the Department of War, through Customs and Border Patrol, to put that together, and we're hoping to get that launched early in 26.
So obviously they're tightening up on the southern border, so that must put more pressure on the northern border?
It does. In my conversations with FAIR early last year, they wanted to come up here and do another border tour like they were doing in the southern part of the states, but they weren't able to get that passed this year. So that's why I put together the northern border tour to bring them up here. The focus is coming around to us. We're getting more and more apprehensions, as I mentioned before, and we don't know how many getaways there are. We don't know how many have come across that are just completely under the radar. According to CBP at Holton, the ones that they're catching at the border, a lot of them are just doing stupid things. They take a wrong turn. They try and see if they can sneak through, that stuff. The interior apprehensions are more of bad guys. These guys are on their list. We know where they are. They go and get them. We've seen the stories of the cargo vans being stopped in the Skowhegan area. They had 2 of them in 1 week with illegals in them. So there are a lot of them. There is a major focus now on the northern border, and it's not just Maine. They're looking all the way across the northern border of the states. But here in Maine, it's an issue that we don't want to expand. We don't want it to get bigger. There's no discernible border, no wall there, but we don't want them to be sneaking through the woods and coming in and finding the tote roads and the back roads. And they will eventually, because they're relentless.
So we've had a lot of law enforcement on the podcast, and they're all talking about the cartels that are now in the state of Maine, especially in Bangor, and how much drugs are coming through. What are your thoughts on that?
That came onto my radar over a couple of years ago. Actually, I think it was Steve Robinson that brought it to my attention to begin with, about the illegal triad marijuana grows. We actually went to about a half a dozen of them. I went with a reporter from the Epoch Times, Steve with camera. We had 3 cameras in tow and banged right on the doors. This one guy, it was kind of funny because this one guy came and answered the door. I know, speak English. Oh, yes, you do. Yeah, I know you do. So let's talk. Once I realized how intense that situation was, and we started doing some background digging on it, we found 280 at the time illegal triad grows in the state. And going through the records down at their county registries, over 60 of them had been financed and funded through a CDFI, which is a community development financial institution in Queens, Long Island, New York. I couldn't believe that. I did some research on that program, and it's a federal program. It came out of the Community Redevelopment Act in 1977. I think it was 94 when it was modernized, and they're giving out these loans. All you need is an ID card. You don't have to have a tax return. You don't have to prove income, anything. You can get down there, get a $250,000 loan, and there were no guardrails on what that was to be used for. So I called down to the CDFI headquarters at the Treasury, asked if I could go on a Zoom with them, which was their next Zoom that they were having, and I wanted to ask what the safeguards were on the program to ensure it wasn't going to be used for nefarious purposes. They wouldn't let me do it. So I sent them down a letter asking just that. What are the safeguards? Are we actually guaranteeing these loans for an illegal triad Chinese organization with federal money? They wouldn't respond. So I fired off a letter to Senator Collins, and she was more than anxious to get on that. She sent down a letter very quickly, and shortly after that, I received a response back, all word salad. The good thing about that is that I think it brought some light to the program because Doge got a hold of it, and they canceled the program. I didn't think they should cancel the program, so I sent another letter back down saying, look, this last year, we had 16 loans in the state of Maine, which were CDFI guaranteed loans, $340,000 apiece. What we really need is to make sure there are guardrails on it. The program is viable, so please save the program, but make sure that it sticks to its mission statement and that it has the guardrails and safety on it that it needs. So once that got going, then I got involved with HIDA, which is the High Intensity Drug Activity Program. Looked at that, talked with some friends of mine that are involved in that program, found out that it was starting to fade away. It has a $300 million budget. We only have one HIDA office in the state of Maine, and only one county is considered a HIDA county in Maine, and that's Cumberland County. Then I got word back a few months ago that they were looking at the program again with the new administration. The program was going to be resurrected with a finer tune to the mission statement of the program. It was starting to splinter away from its drug trafficking, getting more into illegal immigration, trafficking, things of that nature, which actually made sense, Corinna, because everywhere you find illegal immigration, you find it all in a network. It's all together. So I was really glad to hear that the program was resurrected. The funding for it, it's only $300 million. The funding for it was approved through the House. It was sitting and waiting for the government to reopen, to pass it through the Senate. And in the meantime, I opened a dialogue with the HIDA Deputy Director for New England, Dave Kelly. He's also the congressional liaison, and talking to him about how do we get more funds for the state of Maine? What can we do? We discussed it and asked about sending a letter to Senator Collins for support. So there again, another letter to the senator asking her to, when it comes up for a vote, take a serious look at it, see if we can get that passed through. And then Director Kelly's going to be coming up sometime, and we're going to be meeting in the Portland area to see how we can get more activity, more focus on the state of Maine for HIDA. We do know that the Sinaloa cartel's here. Trendy Agua cartels are here. They're starting to mess with one another and rob one another. It's not going to be long before we have gang fights in our streets and someone's going to die. We already know about people who have died because of this issue, and we just don't want to see it in the street. So we're going to do everything we can to see if we can get the feds in here to help us with more support, if not more manpower.
So let's pivot over to electricity. Obviously, a lot of Mainers are talking about high electric bills. What are your thoughts on that?
First off, I was very relieved to see what the president has done as far as these subsidies go. Shutting down wind, I think, is the exact right way to go. We have an incredible amount of resources when it comes to hydro, and I think that should be tapped a lot more. Small nuclear reactor, I'm very in favor of that as well. I believe that solar and wind are just an incredible scam on our society. That's my personal opinion. I see no good that's coming out of this. We spend a small fortune on this stuff and nothing gets done. Back earlier last year, President Trump signed an executive order early on, which directed the Department of Justice to look at state overreach on energy policy. I put together a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi, which was signed by just about everybody in the state legislature, all the Republicans in the House and the Senate, asking her to take a solid look at our renewable portfolio, our policies on wind and solar, just to take a look in accordance with that executive order and make sure that the state of Maine is in compliance with federal law when it comes to that. We're getting taken advantage of. We really are. I would love to see it have a constructive impact on our state, but it isn't. We spend hundreds of millions of dollars, and we're getting absolutely next to nothing back for it. If you look at Representative Reagan Paul does an incredible job on energy. She stays on top of it. She keeps the public informed as to exactly how little it's contributing to the ISO grid, a New England grid. I think anything that we can do to get ourselves out of that, move back towards our renewables that we have, biomass. I was recently up at Stratton at the Regenerate facility up there. They're a 48 megawatt facility at full capacity they can run. They do an incredible job. That's in my district. They bring a lot of material in from Aroostook County. So we're trying to get them to use a lot more locally to feed that and get them a little bit bigger percentage of the renewables portfolio. That's what's going on with energy with me. I did get a call back from the Department of Justice. They did receive it. They are looking at it. They are working on it. But since the shutdown, I haven't heard anything from them. There are incredible people down there. I credit, again, Senator Collins's office, her chief of staff, Steve Abbott. He got involved with that as well and rattled a little bit down there and got them on top of that one. I'm just a small representative, so you got to reach out to the big guns and get the help when you can. They've been great with that.
What is the end goal with that request through Senator Collins' office?
The end goal is to make sure that we get the federal eyes on this. My letter included look at wind, look at solar, look at our renewable portfolio, look at net energy billing. Make sure that these things are all legal and what should be happening. What's going on in other states? How's it being received? Just to get more eyes on it. We're not going to get anything done on the state level on this, so it has to be on a federal level. And through that letter, I just want to make sure, hey, we're here. Here's the executive order. Please take a look at the state of Maine. Make sure that we're not abusing our citizens with these policies that are state-driven policies. And that gets sparked because when I took a look at my electricity bill is tripled. Now, I don't consume a lot because it's just me at the house. So mine runs $40-45 a month what it was running. Now, it's getting up over $100. It's getting ridiculous how expensive it is. And what are we doing as far as solar goes? We have the extra cost that's on there now. It was a stranded cost, is what it was called. Now it's a public policy fee. They're just taking money from us so that they can build the grid to pump this stuff out of the state. And we're paying not only to build it, but we're paying them the extra money for the use of it. So we're getting abused all the way around. We just need the feds to come in, take a broader look at this. And asking for compliance with that executive order was the one way I felt that I could try and make a difference on it.
Tell us about your work on health clinics in schools.
That came on my radar a couple of years ago. I was working on the issues of boys competing in girls' sports, boys going into girls' locker rooms. I did some digging in that early on, and I was so glad to see what President Trump did on his very first day in office. Joe Biden had written an executive order which attached gender identity to Title IX. And fortunately enough, any sitting president has the authority to either amend, repeal, or rescind a previous executive order. And that was one of the first things that Donald Trump did. He wrote and rescinded Joe Biden's order number, I think it was 13988, that put that on there. So it stripped it away from it, and Title IX stands on its own now. Unfortunately, here in our state, there are some on the other side of the aisle with their backers, primarily law firms that they have. And they have convinced these school districts that the Maine Human Rights Act is the law of the land. But as it stands right now, Title IX is the law of the land. The Supremacy Clause says it's the law of the land. And I've traveled to a lot of school districts talking about that. One thing that we have seen happen recently, and I was so glad to see it, a couple weeks ago, I spoke at the Augusta School Board meeting, and we're starting to turn the corner. We're starting to make progress. We're getting more and more schools that are walking away from the Maine Human Rights Act provisions on it, or laws on it, whatever you want to call it, and going back and standing beside Title IX. All they're doing is they're being forced into this. They're being bullied and pressured into it. And we have people on these school boards that are just being educated by their law firms. We got to stick with the Maine Human Rights Act. I brought a bill to the floor of the House last year, which was an act to remove gender identity from the Maine Human Rights Act. The majority leader in the House on the floor said it was the most horrific bill he'd ever seen. I honestly thought when he said that, the most horrific bill I've seen is the one that you guys passed, the Democrats passed, which would allow for abortion as a child's being born. There are other bills that I can think of as well. Sex change operations on children, pretty horrific. But oh no, we need to have our gender identity. Teaching children not to believe in science, not to believe in proven fact of science, that's robbing them of their childhood.
You are listening to Q Point Podcast. I'm Karina Quirk, co-hosting with my husband, David Quirk, and we are having a conversation with Maine State Representative Mike Soboleski.
So the Marine Corps just celebrated their 250th anniversary.
Yes.
Tell us a little about your experience with that.
That was on the 10th and back-to-back with Veterans Day on the 11th. That was just a great, great 2 days coupled together. Our nation coming together, supporting our military in so many different ways. And we saw it at all levels, not only from our federal government, of course, all the support that was there for that, but locally as well. All of our American legions got together. There were events and parades everywhere, and it brought forward an incredible unity in our nation. And we should have more of that. We need a lot more of that right now to make sure we stay on the path that we're on, and we're heading in a great direction right now. Being a United States Marine, out of all of the hats I've worn in my life, that has had about the most impact of anything. It gave me a sense of grit, a sense of fight. I am a greater fool, and I'm unapologetic for it. A greater fool is a person with a perfect blend of self-delusion and ego to believe that they can succeed where others fail. And that's me. I try. And that's helped mold my life as to who I am. I believe in the man in the arena. I believe in trying and trying and trying. So being a Marine, it taught me to have grit. And I've fought that way all my life. I've had times when I've succeeded and failed, when I've fallen down and I've gotten knocked down. You just keep on going and you keep fighting for what you believe in. I'm a strong conservative. I believe in my conservative values, my Christian faith, and I fight wherever I find that there's a fight. I like picking fights when you need to pick one. That's why I wanted to be in Congress, and I still want to be in Congress. I believe that that's an arena that I can fight in, to join that fight down there, the fights that are there, and pick the fights that I need to pick for the issues that I believe will help our nation go in the direction towards our liberty, towards our freedom. So being a United States Marine, it pretty much shaped my entire life.
Speaking of Congress, since Golden has bowed out, are you now considering challenging Paul LePage?
Well, Jared Golden, a little while back, I had spoken with him. We were on a flight together down to D.C., and I had some meetings to go to and some stuff on the Hill I wanted to do, and we talked about that. And I was not surprised to see him do it. He has a little baby. His pension is vested. That's always a good position to be in. His parents have gotten older. They have the golf course Springbrook. That's a real natural transition for him to do. I thank him for his service. He's a fellow Marine as well, regardless of political affiliation. I thank him for his service and wish him the best moving forward. Congress had appealed to me before because that's the fight I want to be in. Not only the fight I want to be in, but that's the place where I want to pick fights. That's where I believe that I can be the most effective. Being in politics, being a leader, that's always going to be in my sights. That's always going to be what's ahead of me. Where my future takes me, we'll see where it takes me. I've made no decisions right yet or commitments or no declarations as to which direction I'm going to go in. Whether it's in the Maine House, the Maine Senate, Congress, wherever it may be, all of the doors are open to me right now. So we're going to take a look, see what it looks like over the coming months, and make a decision when the time is right. I do want to be in a position where I can fight, and that's just who I am, and it's what I enjoy. I have a great team around me, and we have a lot of great legislators, but there again, Congress is where I believe it's at. That's where I think I could make the most difference, and we'll see what the future brings.
Before we let you go, what is your take on the gubernatorial candidates currently on both sides?
We've got quite a field out there right now. I mean, we've got 9 in the Republican field. There are rumors of, I think, up to 3 more that could be coming along. That's good from a competition standpoint, but it also puts us in a very, very unique, very awkward situation that with so many people there, they're all doing their fundraising. They're all doing a good job. I think Bobby Charles has the most so far on the gubernatorial side from the last report I saw. But these guys are going to spend every dime that they can raise trying to win the primary. And with it being a ranked choice, this Secretary of State has the opportunity to kick that decision down the road. And we're not going to see a decision on that right away. I don't know how many rounds it'll go or how many it can go. But my fear is that they will spend every dime that they have. This will get kicked down the road 2, maybe even 3, possibly even 4 weeks. And it leaves a very small window to raise what they're going to need to raise to compete in the general election. So I wish them all good luck. I know 2 or 3 of them very well personally. It's hard to make any type of a choice right now as to who I like. I'm hoping that over the course of the next month or 2 months, a handful of them will decide that that's enough. I've tried. There are some of them I wish would drop out right now and go run in the state Senate races in their districts. Spend your money there where you can actually make a difference instead of competing in this gigantic arena. Someone with just 20% of the vote, this is what I'm sure they're all thinking, with just 20% of the vote can win the primary, be the candidate, but we'll see what happens. On the other side, I have no love lost for Secretary of State Bellows at all. I've filed ethics complaint against her. I've been involved with 2 different impeachments of her. I believe that she acts on her own whim, regardless of what state or federal law is. And we need a serious change there. I really wish that the powers to be in our state would not be so focused on the governor's race or on the congressional race. The most important position in our state government is our attorney general. We have to have that attorney general and the secretary of state side by side. So I wish that the focus would be more on the House and on the Senate. We need 50% there. There are 186, I think it is. So we need 94 total. We have 84, I think it is right now. So if you want to make a difference in the state of Maine, in the way politics are done, in the direction that we're heading, get us the constitutional officers and focus there. Let the rest of it happen as it happens.
Maine State Representative Mike Soboleski, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you for your service. We do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you guys. Always great to see you. We're hoping for the best for Maine as we move forward, and everyone's coming together. We need a giant push here and to be successful down the road. Thank you very much.
You've been listening to Q Point.
Follow us at qpointpodcast.com or on your favorite streaming app.
This is where you can get the news from the people who make the news.
Make sure to join us next time.
We hope you tune in.
Q Point Podcast invites guests and candidates from all parties to join the conversation. The views, information, opinions, and comments expressed during this program do not necessarily represent those of the host, Q Point Podcast, associates, affiliates, and CQRE LLC.
Thanks for being a part of the conversation. The most important voices aren't always the loudest ones. They're the voices of everyday people, raising families, running businesses, serving their towns. That's who we want to hear from. Share your ideas with us online, and let's make sure those voices are never left out. Find us on Facebook or on X or at qpointpodcast.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Catch every episode at qpointpodcast.com or wherever you stream. Tune in and tell your friends.